Well, hey, friends, I'm really glad that you're here with me on another edition of the Thriving Christian Artist podcast. I've got one of the most precious, incredible, favorite couples in the art world out there and in my life, Aaron and Tracy Brown. Guys, so glad that you guys are here with me. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Matt. We're so happy to be here, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know a lot of folks on the podcast know you, Aaron. You've been on the podcast before and obviously taught at Gathering of Artisans for a lot of years and that sort of thing. But I wanted you guys just to kind of give a brief introduction, who you are, what you do, where you are in the world and that sort of thing. And then I want to jump into a topic that I think people are going to really, really get a lot of that has to do a lot with your own creative process. So who are you guys?
Oh, my name is Aaron Brown, and I'm a visual artist, and I've been creating in mixed media on Canvas for almost a couple decades now. And I've been showing in galleries and festivals and international juried art shows and coffee shops and churches, live painting in churches, live painting at bars, and live painting everywhere you can live paint, even at weddings. I found Tracy. I was teaching an art class in Temecula, California. We're located out of Redlands, California.
Yeah.
Have been for my whole life, really. And we just can't seem to get away. God just gives you a land sometimes, and you just camp out there, and you just become that faithful branch in the land, growing strong, creating shade for people. I started doing festivals, running my own festivals. I started the Downtown Redlands Art Walk, which grew from 8 friends to over 160 friends. And now is run by the city of Redlands. I've had several art galleries myself, and here we are. I've also been through divorce, and I've been a minister in the church, and I've come into this new incredible experience called Tracy Brown. And she's awesome. My wife is my hero. She's my joy, my crown. She makes me look way better than I am. And she helps me so much to play and to create. And she is also a visual artist. She's been creating several books. She's also an author in her past life. And she's a pastor. And we love to teach and pastor people as well. So that's a little bit about us.
I love it. I love it. Tracy, I know you've got education background and ministry background, but what is life like with an artist? I mean, come on, this is off the grid, right?
Can I just tell you, I'm living my best life. I am absolutely living my best life because I have a lot of, like you said, I have a lot of background in education. I lived in the education world for most of my life, largely because I was kind of afraid to go outside of school. Like I knew how school worked. I could ace every class. I just had that process down. And it was really hard and scary for me as a grown-up to go, okay, I'm going to step out of the world of, being a student in a classroom. And
Sure.
So I got around that for a long time by being a teacher, and I got to hang out in a classroom still. And I'm still doing it to this day. But Aaron is this incredible, open door for me into the fullness of who I am, because I'm also a creative person, but he gives me this incredible, permission to be courageous and to try and to fail and to learn, because in the past I would never ever have gone to a wedding full of people and sat and tried to paint live next to an incredibly talented, brilliant artist. And I do now, though. I go with him and I sit there and I'm not as good as he is, but I'm trying and I'm learning things, and it's always vulnerable, but it's amazing. And it's part of his gift,
It turns out when you marry your soulmate and the person who God has ordained for you from the foundations of the earth, you actually become a better version of who you are.
True story.
I'm experiencing that. And so it's a wonderful thing. Like I have more grace in my life to create than I ever have in my whole life, because I'm not pushing up against an unequal yoke or unhealth or codependency with a partner that's not healthy. So it's really, really amazing. We're like zooming into things we've never, we get married and all of a sudden we just create a whole body of work, a whole bunch of paintings. We start collaborating together. We're selling it in gallery and in art spaces. And we're just having a whole bunch of fun. We're creating books, we're creating stickers, we're creating merchandise. because it's not like work for us. When we do it together, it's like play and it's like enjoyment. And so, yeah, it's been really wonderful to have a partner like this.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah, I think Tanya and I, we'll be married almost 20, I guess it'll be 25 years in April. And
wow, congratulations.
I know, right? I was like, come on. And she stayed. This is great. But I'm just thinking, it took me a while. I think she would say the same thing. It took me a while to really realize that this incredible person that God's brought into my life as my spouse is completely different than I am. And yet God's trying to complete me, as you're saying, through this person, that there's aspects of her personality that are, that I need and mine of hers. Talk about how you guys are managing, because, while everything is awesome and you're creating art and that sort of thing, there are very real parts of your life and business. I know that Aaron, you probably are stronger in. Tracy, you're probably stronger in. So from the running of the business and making an art life and all that sort of thing, who's doing what on the back end, and how does that feel?
Yeah, she's been a huge piece in my life. Like I can't like over explain that, like, or exaggerate it. She has literally come alongside of me, and I'm like really good at being that burnt out artist. I become a professional at being a burnt out artist. But Tracy has reawakened me so many times and taught me how to play again, taught me how to enjoy the process, not create for money, not create for opportunity as much as I'm creating for play. And that has just reignited a passion in my life. And where all of a sudden I'm way more prolific in my work than I have been in seasons past, and just making and making and making.
And probably selling more too, because you're creating out of that.
And selling more too. And I'm not even thinking about selling. I think it's nice that I have kind of like a built-in, like how to create work in a place in my over, several years of doing this now, where it just comes natural. Like I know how to present a piece of work.
Well, there's also this beautiful thing, sorry to interrupt, but where Aaron is deeply motivated to champion me, which is incredible and so lovely. So we'll create something together, and it gives him this drive and impetus to go out and seek out opportunities that he may have not sought out for himself, because he just has this heart to be like, see, you're in a gallery, Tracy. And I'm like, well, yeah, technically that's you, but like, I did get to paint some flowers on there, and
this is like the wild at heart dynamic, right? The John Elvers thing, like a damsel in distress to save, a mountain to climb, a war to win. I love that.
Absolutely, 100%.
But it's beautiful. I've never really experienced it before in my own life, and I call him my champion all the time. And I mean, even like this morning. So today happens to be 6-year anniversary of my dad passing away. And so this morning, Aaron was sitting with me, and he was like talking with me about how he loves me even when I'm sad, and speaking like prophetically all this beauty over like me when I'm grieving or sad. And I've never experienced that before. And so it gives me this permission. I have a champion next to me who's like, you can be the fullest version of yourself. You don't have to hide the parts of you. I mean, I'm an Enneagram too. So I'm the person who wants to be like, how can I help you? And everything's good. I'm good. How are you? And then I have this incredible Enneagram 4 who's like, here, let's feel the things. Yeah. And I love feeling the things with you. And it walks me into health. And so I'm finding myself growing in my own creativity because of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a 3-wing 4. And of course I have to tell you that I'm a 3 because that's what 3s do. And
it's my 3-wing. I'm a 2-wing 3. So that's why I brought up the Enneagrams. I get it.
We're all right there together. This is Well, Aaron, you have been known as an artist, what many people would call a prophetic artist for many years, or an artist who operates in the prophetic, not only in ministry, but also, through your art. And you, just what Tracy's saying, this beautiful empathy that you bring, and the heart of God, I would call it, the ability to hear the Lord and be able to speak his heart to somebody. I think anybody that knows you, whether from social media or in person, would say that that's just a big, big part of what you carry. I started seeing you use a phrase, visual empathy, that you started using describing the work that you're doing now. And I think that it is at such another level, which is so phenomenal artistically, but it seems like you are really, really, really drawing on a different depth of relationship with the Lord and a different desire to have people connect with your work and connect with the Father in such a deeper way. So I wanted to explore that with you a little bit, and this idea of what you consider visual empathy and how you're even bringing that into your art process.
I love it. I love the question. Thank you, Matt, for bringing it up. Tracy and I, we started painting together for when we got married, and we were just having a lot of fun playing. We were really enjoying it. And Tracy just goes one day, "You know what your artwork is, Aaron?" She goes, "It's visual empathy." She's like, "I've been thinking about that phrase for a long time for my own work," she says, but she says, "But you do it so well." And I was like, visual empathy, it sounds cool and hipster. I like that, you know.
We trademark that. Is so great.
Hashtag visual empathy. That's so right. Cool. But I was like, well, what does it mean? You know, we are both on a healing journey from some really toxic lifestyles in the past. So we've been going through Brené Brown. We've been overcoming shame in our life. When you have abusive relationships, I was married for 17 years. She was married for how many years before?
9
years. And when it's just a really toxic environment, you're having to start your whole life over. You're just making sure you have something healthy to offer a new person if you're going to be bringing that into your world. And so we were overcoming shame. Like a huge thing in my life was just being shamed, like over and over, just for being something other than God created me to be, you know. And I don't know, I started putting on labels and accusations over myself and really beating myself up. And the Lord gave me this word. Aaron, you need self-compassion. You need self-compassion. And I wrote it on my easel. Every day I go to my paintings, I would write, I would just look at that phrase, self-compassion. Like, how can I have self-compassion? I have this weird bent in me. I don't paint to try to just like paint the cool new hipster thing that's out there or the newest piece of artwork. I create out of the seasons of my life. It's like I almost can't even create unless I do that. Yeah, it's almost like a visual journal, every painting. And it becomes hard sometimes for sellability, because it's like the world wants you to be like a press. They want you to press out like paintings, like, oh, you did a line, do another line, do another line, another line. And it doesn't work for me. I end up turning those into prints, and then I'll sell the prints of those. I cannot myself as an artist be a press. So I had to go into the season of my life and really evaluate a lot of brokenness and a lot of hurt and a lot of shame that I was carrying. And when she brought up this word visual empathy, I was like, I just started, honestly, by faith. This is honest to God what I started doing, Matt. I posted hashtag visual empathy into my posts by faith, because that's what my wife was prophesying over me.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I didn't even understand it fully, to be honest. And it became an every single post thing, though. Like, I just started writing it, and I was going on, and it hit me one day. I was painting a little boy recently through a different form on digital just a digital Procreate painting, and which I don't like, because that's really vulnerable for me. I like to be known as like the painter on canvas. I don't like to be like on a screen. But I was doing it anyways, and I felt the Lord invite me, Aaron, to really look at my work at visual empathy. And I started processing self-compassion, and that God doesn't shame me. So it's a bunch of things, but that also visual empathy. I was just carrying these 3 words within my being. And I felt like the Lord said, in this next season, Aaron, I'm freeing you up from anything monetary of trying to make money with your art completely. And he said, take this job at this church. And I took this job at this church recently as their worship pastor. And he said, now create the things that are inside of your soul. You don't have to worry about what anybody thinks about your work, how it looks, what format it's on, if it's on a canvas.
Yeah.
You are not going to lose yourself as a visual artist. You're not, don't worry, Aaron, like, don't shame yourself because you're not like artist for hire anymore, like you have been in the season past. I still get commissions. I got like tons of commissions stacked up. I'm showing in a gallery still, but it's not like my main source of income isn't coming from all those things. And it liberated me recently. And I started drawing digitally this little boy, and I painted a rib cage within his chest, visual, like to where it's exposed.
Yeah.
And I feel that like that little boy. I feel like that little boy, like vulnerable, like my world is exposed. When you go through divorce, you feel so exposed. You feel so naked. You feel so much shame. You all the things that you messed up on are in front of everybody in the world. And it's so hard. And so I felt like my inner child was just rib cage bare. And the Lord told me, Aaron, draw it, like do the thing that you really resonate with. Don't worry what people think or if it'll sell. Just do it finally. Would you do it finally? I took away everything so you would finally be you. Would you finally be you?
Just
and I was
this
like,
thing, right? This on.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll finally be me. And I'm just like, I mean, it gets me, I'm like emotional just thinking about it. And then I draw that little boy with the rib cage, and I'm like, and the Lord says, now draw light behind his ribs. And it was really simple. I just started painting light behind his ribs coming out and just like lifting like a flame up to heaven. And I drew the seasonal, like the seasons of the moons, the shapes of the moon, like the night seasons, where it's different, like full moon, half moon, crescent. And it was just like a beautiful expression of where I've been at in my season, that I'm not just exposed, but I'm exposed unto vulnerability, unto honesty, unto to revealing the human experience, that I wasn't exposed unto shame. I wasn't exposed unto self-criticism, but self-compassion. And then the Lord said, and now you can see visual empathy. He said, this image that you create is exactly how so many people feel. They feel exposed. They feel like their ribs are exposed. They feel like they're in a dark night of their soul right now through COVID and through all the variants, through all the upheaval in churches all over the earth. And they need to know that their inner child isn't lost. Though they feel exposed, that they can still live again. They can still be alive again in their soul. And so I painted this little thing, and I started realizing, oh, visual empathy is being with somebody in their pain and in their humanity, in their inner child, and saying, you're not alone.
Yeah.
And
that's the heart of the Father, right? I mean, that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that place, there's hope. You're not, like, I remember when I was a little boy, I painted lots of dark things like skulls and rib cages and all these kind of things. And I felt so much shame from the Christian community to do it. And they were always telling me, why are you doing such dark imagery? And because I felt dark. My father passed away when I was only 3 years old. So I knew death better than most people. Yeah. And so of course I'm drawing stuff like that, and I was just shamed out of me by church culture. And I tried to learn how to create images that were hopeful and life-giving, which was also a beautiful season of my life as well, to be honest. But in this last season, the Lord's like, let's marry those together, because let's articulate the vulnerability of humanity and the hope of Jesus Christ in that place.
Yeah.
And I feel like hope hits stronger when you offer vulnerability and you offer empathy and you really sit with people in their pain, and you sit with your own pain.
Yeah.
You sit with your own issues, and then
because
you
it's always that
those.
place, right, of our deepest woundedness, and that we've been restored to be ambassadors of restoration, right? Healed so that we can be healers. And it's like,
Exactly.
that's what you're tapping into.
Exactly. Tracy has some really cool things she can say about it. Explain empathy. This is why I brought her on today, because she's taught me so much about this.
Well, it's funny that I love the Enneagram, so I'm going to bring it up just briefly again. But it's funny that we have a 2, a 3, and a 4, because so that puts us all in the heart triad,
right?
And each triad has a dominant feeling that they will experience in like kind of stillness and solitude, like a thing that comes up for them. And for us in the heart triad, it's shame. And so I was coming from a place of kind of, I'm an academic. So I was like, okay, shame. I'm about to learn everything there is to know about this bad boy. I'm going to figure it out and
defeat it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to fix it. And I remember reading, Brené Brown said, empathy is the antidote to shame. And she talks about how shame is kind of like mold. Like if you put it in a dark space and you cover it up and you put it away and you don't touch it and you don't expose it to light, it grows and it gets big and yucky. And she said, empathy is like taking the lid off of that and letting sunlight in, and it kills that shame,
kills the mold
piece. It kills the mold, which feels terrifying, right? It feels like an exposed rib cage. And, but empathy means I'm showing up in the same place where you are, not necessarily the exact same experience, but understanding the emotion under the experience, right? Yeah. Like, and that's something, again, that Aaron does so beautifully. I think it's just such a gift some people have, where they know every nook and cranny and nuance of emotion.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid of it. And Aaron has that. So this beautiful thing happens with his artwork where people look at it and they feel met in a way. I think it almost circumvents language.
Yeah.
Because for me to sit with you, Matt, like if you were going through something and I said to you, well, I understand you're feeling these things. I've felt those things too. You might be able to receive that to a certain degree, but there's always interpretation, there's tone, things
Sure.
that may get warped. If it's just you looking at a piece of artwork, there's a different kind of impartation of that empathy that happens.
It's almost like the viewer or the listener, in a way, can be more vulnerable themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
and
no judgment
I mean,
back from anybody.
Right.
From that picture.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, here's kind of a sweet example. Aaron painted like late last year this beautiful little bear, and he's just sitting kind of with his head down. He has these beautiful butterfly wings and all this light and stuff. And I loved it. I was like, it's so beautiful. And he posts and he gets a message from this guy who goes, I just want you to know how much this image meant to me, because I have struggled with feeling like I'm not the typical dude. And he starts talking about all these things that he has felt his whole life. And he looks at this bear, with these beautiful wings, but kind of sad posture.
Yeah, he's kind of like a melancholy bear.
But so beautiful. And there's light everywhere in it too. And he's like, I just felt this, what did he say? Like permission and this compassion to be who I really am. And that's what we mean when we say visual empathy.
Yeah, he says he's like over almost 7 foot huge man. Like he's in his whole life, he's been this huge, big, burly guy, but he's never felt like the typical guy, because he loves wonder, he loves beauty, he loves butterflies. Yeah. And I was like, and all of a sudden he felt like he felt known, because this bear was wearing butterfly wings. Oh. And I don't know why I'm painting butterfly wings, but I feel like everything in my life has been a reformation and a transformation in my life. or God is changing my religion, not to away from Jesus, obviously, but
Right.
more into Jesus. He's changing he's reforming that. He's transforming that. I've been coming like out of a chrysalis, in my soul. And has it been hard still? There's been all kinds of crazy. Last week we had COVID. Our house had COVID, but you still,
It was awesome.
Even there, you feel this reformation, this transformation. You know that something's coming out of that chrysalis. Because I have this incredible partner now in my life. It's like we're going the same place, the same vision, and we're creating these things for people, and we're starting to understand why we create it. We were in Monterey, California one day. We're on like just a retreat, her and I wake up one morning and the Lord just tells me, you were created to paint hope. And I was like, paint hope. And I just, all of a sudden I was like, I know why I'm created. I know why finally, I've been doing this for so many years and it took me so long. It's like, you're called to just paint hope and create hope. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to hope the crap out of it. And then I started thinking like hoping, and just bringing hope all the time isn't just butterflies and fairy tales and magic and sunshine and rainbows. And hope is the chrysalis. Hope is the cocoon. It is the meltdown that goes in the cocoon, where that worm becomes like worm soup inside of that cocoon and then transforms, breaks down and becomes that butterfly. And so the butterfly is taken on a whole new meaning. It's like the most masculine thing I've ever thought of in my whole entire life. And so I'm pretty proud of it. So I'm painting a lot of butterflies in that. And to me, that's visual empathy, to say like, you're not, you feel like you're in a cocoon right now, but, and I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I have COVID this week. Hey, but guess what comes after that transformation that comes from that cocoon? So, yeah.
So good, y'all. I'm thinking back years ago when I started kind of exploring this idea of creating with the Holy Spirit and prophetic art. And the Lord told me one time, he said, when somebody creates a piece of art, it's kind of like it's an invitation to sit at a table. And, like the Lord's on one side, on the other piece of that art. And the piece of art is an invitation at a table that says, come and listen and look and feel and interpret and whatever. And the Lord's like, I'm waiting on the other side of every piece of art to do something. And I've often tried to get artists to resist this idea that to be prophetic or whatever, to be used by God in your art, that somehow you have to say this or it has to be this spiritual enough or in this, biblical metaphor or whatever. It's just like, if you'll just create out of this place of beauty and connection with the Lord and then release it to him, he's going to do what he wants to do with it. And I say all that to say, it's like you are creating these invitations for people to be able to sit and look without judgment, without expectation. And because Holy Spirit is there, we know that it ignites something inside of people. Nobody can come to the Lord unless he draws them. We know this, it's like the visual language is creating this opportunity for people to sit and to think. And I just think when I look at your work, as opposed to something that I would say is the tradition, the typical prophetic art or something like that we've been seeing for so many years, there is a hopefulness. There's an openness to it. There's a vision to it. There's an empathy to it. There's this opportunity that says, wow, this guy is not afraid to go after the deep things. And I think because of that, people understand intuitively that God is not afraid for me to explore the deep things, to go to those deep places. I mean, is that making sense? I'm just processing as you're talking as well.
Right. I mean, along the way, I've painted like the typical Christian, like prophetic art stuff, like lions.
Right.
Like I love lions. Still
nothing wrong with it. Right.
Nothing wrong with it. I think it's beautiful. I think there should be at least 10,000 more painters painting lions out there, honestly, and in their expression of what it is. And I've had an ache inside of my heart for somebody to paint something that wasn't churchy or kitschy or religious. And I've been a culprit of even perpetuating those same Christian images that are out there.
Sure.
And God's like, I have people all across the earth that are hurting and aching and longing for the presence of Jesus to come walk into their homes. And like never before on the earth, I've opened up social media platforms and windows into homes all across the world. And Aaron, I'm longing for you to be who you are. I'm longing for you to be who you are in your humanity, and vulnerable and honest with your brokenness, and vulnerable and honest with your healing journey, and vulnerable and honest with the hope that does come from Jesus, that you can just be unashamed about it at the same time, while not painting, like, while trying to bridge the gap between secular and sacred. There is no gap. He's like, he died for that gap to be obliterated. And I just feel the invitation of the Lord again. And this is just really recent. You just caught me at such a poignant time, honestly, Matt, having me come on.
I follow you. I love you. I mean, we've walked together for years, and I'm just like, something's shifting. Something's shifting.
It is.
Right now
You prophetically just saw it literally just in this last season, because like I'm literally just starting to get handlebars a little bit around what I do. And when you said, Aaron, I want to interview about visual empathy, I was, something in me was like, felt so validated by that. But at the same time, something inside of me was like, oh crap, what am I even doing with that? Like, honestly. And like I was like already unpacking that and getting my own story for that. But then it dove me in this last few weeks, actually, just talking to Tracy more, like, what are we doing with visual empathy in our lives? Explain empathy more to me. There's
this great quote that says, the limits of my language are the limits of my world. And to go along with that, most people, if you interview most people and you ask them to, give you the list of emotions they can name, the average is 3. It's mad, sad, and glad, basically. Those are the emotions. And most research shows that, there's a huge debate about this right now, but it's about 27 to 30, 35 emotions that most people actually experience, which means that there's a huge section of the population who just can't experience empathy in a profound way because it's limited by language. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so unless you sit down and you give somebody like a list of emotions and you're kind of like, okay, like look through here.
Feeling wheel. Have you seen the feeling wheel?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's hugely valuable sometimes for people, but it's also not practical most of the time. Right. And I feel like visual art moves around that.
Yeah.
And it says, like, it's almost like, we were just talking with our oldest last night about reading different translations of the Bible, and every translation has its own limitation because language is always limited. The message is going to be great for like a young person just trying to understand what the heck they were talking about. The older translations are good for like the literal word to word correctness. The Passion Translation is going to be so good for hearing God's heart. But you kind of got to read like 4 or 5 translations to get a full picture.
Right.
So when scripture says like Yahweh is compassionate and gracious, like those are the 2 primary things, the first things he wants us to know about him when he introduces himself in the Old Testament. The limit of my understanding of that is going to be my own understanding of the word compassion. And all the things I attach to that word and who taught it to me and, all of that. I get past that when I look at a painting Aaron's done where it's the image of Jesus on the cross with wings growing out of him. And I can see the beauty but also I can feel the pain of that transformation, that suffering, that loss, and that hope. And suddenly I go, God suffers with us. Yeah. That's what compassion means. He suffers with us. He is actually that close, that he knows that experience that I've had in my divorce or in the loss of my father or whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's just this, I'm wondering if it's something that God's doing to try to, free us from the limitation of language. Yeah. I don't know.
I've been like, so as much as I hate Christian cheesiness, the Lord's been like, I want you to do some of it too, intentionally. So he's like, paint the cross again. I'm like, no, there's so many paintings of the cross. And he's like, paint the cross. Yeah. And this is how he gets me hooked. He goes, I listened to a podcast Stephen Roach is saying one day, and Stephen goes, he's quoting some smart guy. I don't even know who it was, but it was like, he says, beauty and suffering are not strangers. Mm. That phrase, I was like, what does that even mean? But I just, it felt like it was resonating. You ever have somebody say something like, I know that was for me, I just have no clue what it meant.
Can't figure it out quite yet, right?
Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm sitting and the Lord's like, paint the cross. I'm like, dang it. So I'm literally being obedient, out of obedience, painting the cross. And he's like, now paint wings coming out of it. I don't even know why I'm getting emotional, but I guess I've been felt like I know that Jesus. Yeah. I know him hanging naked, bloody and beaten on that tree. I know him. He's with me there. I've been there too. I've been hanging on my own cross for the past few years. And the fact that Jesus said to me, paint wings on his cross, told me that there was something more than just a life hanging bloody and beaten and broken on a cross myself. And that he wore that cross so I could wear wings. And all of a sudden I started painting wings coming off of the cross. And I've not seen anybody do this in the Christian faith, paint wings coming off the cross. Yeah. But I've been doing it, and I'm selling images of the wings coming off the cross. We go on an Easter morning. Tracy starts painting this gorgeous butterfly on Easter morning. I was, oh, it's a beautiful Easter butterflies, And she starts painting it. She starts painting florals, and it's so beautiful. And I walk up, and we're doing this painting live in a church. I'm actually leading worship at the time. I walk off the platform. I come down onto the platform, and she's painting that. And all of a sudden I see the image of Jesus in the middle of her butterfly as like the worm part of the stem of and I started painting that, and it just wrecked me. And so many people were so impacted by that image. And it felt like visual empathy. Like they all know some place of where Jesus hung. Yeah. And I feel like Jesus was the most empathetic human on the planet.
Yeah. I love scripture. I mean, it says Jesus despising the shame, right? Yeah. So I now walk around like, well, okay, Jesus like despises shame. That means part of our like invitation as followers, as creatives who are following him, is to also despise shame. So that means, from what I've learned, at least what I feel in my own spirit is like,
it's good.
Walk in empathy, like walk just have spirit, right? Yeah, exactly. Like carry a radical capacity for empathy with people. And behind that, that's beautiful what you were saying about God being behind every image. Yeah. Behind my own empathy is God's empathy. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was healing from divorce and this profound betrayal I experienced, I had this inner healing time where my friend was leading me through this prayer, and she was like, she suggested that I ask Jesus how he felt when Judas betrayed him. And I got wrecked because I can still feel it now. Like this, almost like I saw this vision of Judas kiss Jesus and then turn to walk away. And Jesus's first feeling was to reach for Judas, like to embrace him again and forgive him instantly. Like in that moment, this profound love and sadness for the grief he was going to experience. And I got healed from my own bitterness over betrayal in that moment, because I knew Jesus had experienced it, but I felt so profoundly his capacity to go, oh, my heart aches for the sadness you're going to feel over that betrayal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what God's developing in me, but what he's already developed in Aaron is so beautifully, and Aaron just naturally does it in his artwork. I'm just sitting here being like, do you see the empathy? Do you see what you're doing? It's so cool.
I want to switch empathetic conversation and talk about just something I feel like the Lord showed me with just your situation in particular, Aaron, and how God is pouring out empathy in your own life, especially in regards to your art and professionally and that sort of thing. And I just would love your thoughts about this. So many people, and, you know, my heart is helping artists thrive. And, you know, if you're supposed to receive your finances through that, let's start a business and do all that. I also know that there are artists who their art is ministry, their art is spiritual processing, their art is hobby, their art is whatever. And there's no right or wrong in that. You know, there's however God's wired you, go for it, and that sort of thing. I just think it's beautiful in all this talk about empathy, that it's almost like it's the Lord showing you empathy in where you are in your own journey right now, to say, you know what, buddy, I love you. I'm your provider, and I've provided for you through your art, and I've provided for you through ministry, and I've provided for you through that. Let's just take the pressure off right now and come over here, and let's receive your provision over here from this job, so that you can have no, you know, weight or pressure or whatever from having to even process that through the lens of marketability. And who knows what will come up later on. Yeah. But it's like right now, it's even like the Lord is creating this financial microcosm of empathy for you to be able to have this special place to create with him. Is that registering for you? And then I would
100%.
also ask for you to say, what would you say to other artists that might be feeling that same kind of maybe the pressure to sell when it's not the season to sell?
Right. Oh, that's so good. I would say that I'm experiencing a revival of creative thriving as an artist.
Yeah. Come on.
And honestly, ever since I met you, Matt, I've been like, Lord, make that a thing. And I've gone through seasons of that, and it was a thing. Like, you had me come out to Gathering Artists, and I got to be a keynote speaker at a Gathering of the Artists, and I was like, this is thriving Christianity, artists. I come back, I teach some classes, people are weeping, the power of the Holy Spirit's in the meetings that we're doing little workshops on, and they're in the worship is so profound, and I'm selling out all my stuff at your event, and I'm like, what is this? This is so wild. This is like a whole nother world that Matt is inviting artists into, like a vortex of thriving Christianity. And I was like, I'm finally coming into like my tribe and my people. And and that was thriving Christianity too. And so was getting everything stripped bare from my life. That was thriving Christianity, Christian artists. And now, right now, I'm in a season where God is having so much empathy with me, and it brings me to tears. And this is thriving Christian artistry, and I thank God for it. And you know, I'm in a reformation again, and I think we get to have permission out there as Christian artists and as not whatever anybody to just go through it. And sometimes prosperity looks like a detox, you know. And so
I think it's important too to say that it's still deeply vulnerable.
Yeah.
I wish people could see the vulnerability required of an artist like Aaron to create what he creates, even in this season where God is like releasing a lot of those limitations, because he doesn't have to think about, will this sell or will it not sell, and all that kind of stuff. I was driving up to Big Bear the other day, and God was giving me this poem about like new freedom being released from shackles. And all the language was about the discomfort of release from shackles, like blood going back into your hands that have been bound for a long time, and the first breath of fresh air that almost hurts because you've been breathing prison air for so long and all that stuff. And I feel like that's a place where Aaron, you can see it almost in like the deep emotion that he's feeling as he talks about a lot of this there is discomfort in it. And even in the invitation to like, okay, rely on this other gifting you have to, in this place of ministry where I'm going to provide for you here. And so the rib cage stuff that he's doing is so authentic and real to his current experience. And the vulnerability requires incredible courage. And
I'm getting more messages though than I have in years, just coming in, just saying, thank you for being vulnerable and honest and real and not doing the same thing that you've done. It's helping me in my season. And people that are going through divorce, people that go through depression, people that are just feeling stuck in their life, they feel, I've had literal people say that is a word of the Lord for me, straight up. And that's like, you stand beside, you let God kind of make you on the potter's wheel, and he'll do that. It's a wild ride, man.
I love it. Well, I love your story. I love what God is doing in both of you and how you're leaning into it, not scared, but just, courageously leaning into that. And you are a friends and inspiration to so many. And I think you're, as you are trying to be empathetic with your own self and process your own spiritual journey, you're creating space for others and invitation for others to do the same. And so thank you guys so much for being on today. For those folks that don't know where to go to find all that you're doing and that sort of stuff, where's the best place that they can connect with you guys?
I think Instagram is like the number one place for us, but for all you people that do Facebook, I do have a Facebook page too. It's both of them, Instagram and Facebook, are the same, Aaron Brown Art, and that's spelled AERON, Brown Art.
Awesome. Well, Aaron and Tracy, thank you guys so much for being on. Guys, definitely go to their Instagram page, Facebook, connect with them, see all the incredible things they're doing. And I can't wait to see what is going to be coming next, guys. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Love you, Matt.